The introduction, the biological fountain of youth. For centuries, humanity believed that the brain was a fixed asset, that you were born with a fixed number of neurons and that aging was a slow, inevitable decline into cognitive fog. But modern neuroscience has shattered this archaic myth. Your brain is not a stone, it is plastic. It is a dynamic, living organ that can grow, rewire, and even heal itself, regardless of the date on your birth certificate. Welcome back to Fluent Minds. In this masterclass, we are decoding the science of cognitive longevity. We are moving beyond simple brain games to a deep biological overhaul. We will show you how to trigger neurogenesis, how to build a cognitive reserve, and how to keep your mental edge as sharp at 70 as it was at 20. Our blueprint is built on the forefront of brain research. The Brain That Changes Itself by Dr. Norman Doidge. Spark by Dr. John Ratey. Keep Sharp by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. The Alzheimer's Solution by Drs. Dean and Aisha Sherzai. Prepare to upgrade your most valuable asset. Volume 1. The Neuroplasticity Revolution, Rewriting the Genetic Script. In the first volume of our architecture, we must dismantle the most dangerous myth of the 20th century, the static brain theory. For decades, the medical establishment taught that the adult brain was hardwired and incapable of change. In The Brain That Changes Itself, Dr. Norman Doidge introduces us to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically change its structure in response to experience. Your brain is composed of roughly 86 billion neurons, connected by trillions of synapses. These connections are not fixed, they are dynamic. Every time you learn a new skill or think a deeply original thought, your brain undergoes structural plasticity. Your neurons grow new dendrites, like branches on a tree, to reach out and connect with others. The high IQ individual understands that their brain is a work in progress. Plasticity is the biological mechanism of hope. It means that your past does not define your future cognitive capacity. However, plasticity is neutral, it can work for you or against you. If you repeat negative patterns or stay in a stagnant environment, your brain will wire itself for decline. To master longevity, you must first accept that you are the architect of your own neural landscape. You are not just using your brain, you are physically building it every second of the day. Volume 2. The Law of Competitive Plasticity, the Use It or Lose It mandate. In the second volume of our masterclass, we must confront the brutal Darwinian reality of the human brain, competitive plasticity. As Dr. Norman Doidge explains, your brain is a limited space with finite resources. Neural pathways are in a constant battle for cortical real estate. This leads to the most important law of brain longevity: use it or lose it. When you stop learning or fall into a repetitive, passive lifestyle, your brain doesn't just stay the same. It begins a process called neural pruning. To save energy, the brain literally dissolves the connections that aren't being used. If you spend years doing a job that requires no new thinking, the brain area responsible for complex problem solving will shrink, and that space will be taken over by simpler, more repetitive functions. The high IQ individual understands that mental fluency is a perishable commodity. Most people mistake experience for learning. Doing a task you have already mastered for 10 years is not growth. It is a repetitive loop. To keep the brain young, you must introduce desirable difficulty. You must engage in activities that are uncomfortable and frustrating, because that frustration is the biological signal that your brain is being forced to expand its territory. To master brain longevity is to realize that ease is the precursor to atrophy. The moment you decide you know enough, your brain begins the process of biological retirement. You must treat your cognitive capacity like a muscle. If it's not being strained, it's being lost. Volume 3. Neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons in the hippocampus. In the third volume of our masterclass, we explore a discovery that changed neuroscience forever: neurogenesis. For over 100 years, the scientific consensus was that you were born with all the brain cells you would ever have. We now know this is false. Deep within the hippocampus, the brain's epicenter for memory and learning, your brain is capable of producing thousands of new neurons every single day, even in your 80s and 90s. However, there is a catch. These newborn neurons are fragile. They are like seeds planted in a garden. If they are not nurtured and integrated into a functional network, they will wither and die within weeks. The high IQ individual knows that the goal isn't just to create new cells, but to rescue them. Image showing the birth of a new neuron, neurogenesis, and its integration into an existing neural circuit. According to the research presented in The Brain That Changes Itself, the primary way to ensure these new neurons survive is through cognitive integration. When you learn something difficult while these new cells are being born, they are recruited into the new neural circuit. They become a permanent part of your brain's hardware. To master neurogenesis is to understand the birth-growth-survival cycle. You trigger the birth through specific biological levers, which we will cover in the next volumes, and you ensure their survival through intense mental engagement. You are not just a passenger in your brain's aging process. You are the chief gardener of your neural landscape. The new you is being born every day. Your job is to give it a reason to stay. Volume 4. The BDNF Miracle. The Miracle Grow for your neurons. In the fourth volume of our architecture, we identify the chemical catalyst of brain youth, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. In the groundbreaking work Spark, Dr. John Ratey describes BDNF as a powerful biological fertilizer. Without it, your brain cells begin to wither and disconnect. With it, your neurons become robust, resilient, and capable of forming lightning-fast connections. BDNF performs three critical functions for a young brain. Neuroprotection. It acts as a shield, protecting existing neurons from the damaging effects of stress and toxins. Synaptic plasticity. It strengthens the synapses, the bridges between neurons, making your thinking faster and your memory sharper. Neurogenesis support. It provides the nutrition needed for the newborn neurons we discussed in Volume 3 to survive and thrive. Image showing a starving neuron with few connections versus a BDNF-enriched neuron with a dense network of branches. The high IQ individual understands that BDNF is the currency of cognitive growth. Most people have low liquidity in this currency because of sedentary lifestyles and poor nutrition. However, you can trigger a BDNF surge through specific biological triggers, most notably intense physical activity and prolonged periods of focus. To master brain longevity is to stop thinking about intelligence as a fixed trait and start thinking of it as a chemical state. When you increase your BDNF levels, you are literally making your brain easier to change. You are turning on the plasticity switch. You don't just become smarter, you become a more efficient learning machine. Volume 5. The Exercise Brain Connection. Sweat as a Neural Fertilizer. In the fifth volume of our masterclass, we address the ultimate smart drug, physical movement. In the seminal work Spark, Dr. John Ratey argues that the modern sedentary lifestyle is a biological mismatch for the human brain. Evolutionarily, we didn't develop high IQ brains while sitting in chairs. We developed them while tracking prey and navigating complex environments. Movement is the brain's natural state. When you engage in intense aerobic exercise, something miraculous happens in your blood. Your muscles release a protein called FNDC5, which is converted into irisin. This exercise hormone travels directly to the brain and triggers a massive surge of BDNF, the fertilizer we discussed in Volume 4. This is why a 30-minute run provides a sharper cognitive boost than any brain game app ever could. Image showing the biological cascade. Leg muscles irisin release blood-brain barrier BDNF surge in the hippocampus. The high IQ individual understands the priming principle. Exercise is not just about health, it is about preparing the soil. By exercising before a difficult mental task, you are flooding your brain with BDNF, making it more plastic and ready to encode new information. Furthermore, you must master the complexity rule. While running on a treadmill is good for filling the tank with BDNF, engaging in complex sports like tennis, martial arts, or rock climbing forces the brain to use that fuel. These activities recruit the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex simultaneously, strengthening the executive function of the brain. To master brain longevity is to realize that your legs are the pillars of your intellect. You cannot have a 21st century mind with a first century body. Volume 6. The Cognitive Reserve, Building the Brain's Insurance Policy. In the sixth volume of our masterclass, we explore the brain's ultimate safety net, a concept known as the cognitive reserve. In his clinical research and in the book Keep Sharp, Dr. Sanjay Gupta reveals a startling neurological paradox. Some individuals show significant biological signs of aging or even Alzheimer's in their brain scans, yet they perform brilliantly in cognitive tests. The reason? They have built a brain so dense, with connections that it can bypass damaged areas using neural detours. Think of your brain like a city's traffic network. If there is only one bridge, one neural pathway, to reach a destination, and that bridge collapses due to age or stress, the system fails. But the high IQ individual builds thousands of secondary roads. When one path is blocked, the brain simply reroutes the information through an alternative, stronger network. This is the essence of cognitive resilience. Building this reserve requires more than just using your brain. It requires cognitive diversity. According to the research, you build the strongest reserve by engaging in non-overlapping skills. If you are a mathematician, learning more math doesn't build a reserve. Learning to paint or play the cello does. You are forcing the brain to build bridges in territories that were previously empty. The elite achiever understands that every difficult book read, every complex social interaction navigated, and every new language studied is a deposit into this reserve. You are not just learning for today, you are building an anti-fragile mind that can withstand the biological tax of time. To master brain longevity is to realize that you don't wait for the fog to appear to start building bridges. You build them while the sun is shining. Volume 7. The Glymphatic Wash, the Nightly Detox of the Brain. In the 7th volume of our masterclass, we must address the sanitation system of the mind. For decades, scientists wondered how the brain clears out its metabolic waste, as it lacks a traditional lymphatic system. The answer was found in the recently discovered glymphatic system. According to Keep Sharp by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, your brain is a high-performance engine that produces massive amounts of molecular trash during the day, specifically a toxic protein called amyloid beta. The glymphatic system is your brain's internal dishwasher, but it only has a night shift. When you enter deep, non-REM sleep, your brain cells, neurons, actually shrink in size by up to 60%. This creates space for cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, to rush through the gaps, washing away the toxic buildup of the day. Image showing the glymphatic system, fluid flushing out toxins like amyloid beta during deep sleep. The high IQ individual understands that sleep is not downtime, it is maintenance time. Depriving yourself of sleep is not a badge of honor, it is a biological disaster. When you skip sleep, the trash remains in your neural pathways, leading to neuroinflammation and the brain fog that plagues the modern worker. Over years, this accumulation is the primary driver of cognitive decline. To master brain longevity, you must prioritize sleep architecture. It's not just about the hours, it's about the depth. You must minimize blue light and cortisol spikes before bed to ensure the glymphatic system can complete its full wash cycle. To keep your brain young, you must give it the biological peace required to clean itself. You don't stay sharp by working more, you stay sharp by recovering better. Volume 8. The Neuronutritional Protocol, Fueling the 60% Fat Machine. In the 8th volume of our architecture, we address the physical building blocks of your mind. According to the Neuro Protocol developed by Drs. Dean and Aisha Sherzai in the Alzheimer's Solution, your brain is the most metabolically demanding organ you own. It is roughly 60% fat, but it is extremely sensitive to the quality of the fuel you provide. The high IQ individual understands the membrane integrity principle. Every neuron is wrapped in a fatty layer called the myelin sheath. To keep this insulation sharp and fast, you need omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA. These are the high-grade materials that keep neural membranes fluid and receptive. Without them, your brain becomes rigid, and signal transmission slows down. Image showing a healthy, myelin-insulated neuron versus a degraded neuron due to poor nutrition. To maintain a young brain, you must master the anti-inflammatory shield. The berry effect. Dark berries, blueberries, blackberries, contain anthocyanins which act as biological shields, crossing the blood-brain barrier to neutralize oxidative stress. The glucose trap. The brain loves energy but sugar spikes cause insulin resistance in the brain, a condition scientists now call type 3 diabetes. This starves your neurons of energy even if you've just eaten. The leafy green mandate. Research shows that people who eat one serving of leafy greens a day have brains that are biologically 11 years younger than those who don't. To master brain longevity is to realize that your fork is a surgical tool. You are either building your neural infrastructure or corroding it with every meal. You don't eat for your stomach, you eat for your synapses. Volume 9. The Cortisol Tax, Protecting the Hippocampus from Chronic Stress. In the 9th volume of our masterclass, we confront the neural assassin, chronic stress. In the work of Dr. Sanjay Gupta and other leading neuroscientists, a terrifying biological reality is exposed. The human brain is not designed for the 24/7 high-alert state of the modern world. When you are under constant stress, your adrenal glands flood your system with cortisol. While useful for escaping a predator, chronic exposure to cortisol is neurotoxic. The primary target of cortisol is the hippocampus, the very center of your memory and learning. High levels of this hormone literally cause neurons in the hippocampus to atrophy and die. It's like pouring acid on a delicate circuit board. The high IQ individual understands that stress management is not a luxury, it is a survival protocol for the mind. Image showing the physical shrinkage of the hippocampus under chronic stress versus a healthy state. To protect your brain, you must implement autonomic rebalancing. You need tools to shift your brain from the sympathetic, fight or flight, state to the parasympathetic, rest and digest, state. This includes non-sleep deep rest, NSDR techniques like yoga nidra or deep breathing that force the nervous system to cool down. The nature effect. Spending time in fractal environments, nature, has been shown to lower cortisol levels and increase attention restoration. Vagus nerve stimulation. Using cold exposure or specific breathing patterns to signal the brain that it is safe to repair itself. To master brain longevity is to realize that a stressed brain is a shrinking brain. You cannot be brilliant if your neurons are constantly under chemical siege. You must guard your peace as if your memory depends on it, because it does. Volume 10. The Sovereign Mind, Integrating the Longevity Protocol. We have reached the apex of brain engineering. We have dismantled the myth of inevitable decline, explained the mechanics of neurogenesis, and designed the chemical and physical environment for growth. Now, it is time to integrate these neural algorithms into the sovereignty protocol. To maintain a young, sharp, and sovereign brain, your daily operating system must function on 4 definitive pillars. First, cognitive cross-training. Never settle for a single skill. The golden rule for a young brain is fierce diversity. If you are a programmer, learn to paint. If you are an athlete, learn a new language. You are building a neural safety net, cognitive reserve, that makes your mind anti-fragile against the passage of time. Second, digital sovereignty. A young brain requires deep work. Digital distraction is an artificial form of premature aging. You must designate periods where your brain is off the grid, forcing the prefrontal cortex to engage in complex tasks without interruption. This protects your gray matter from the erosion of constant task switching. Third, the recovery mandate. Always remember, the brain does not grow during work, it grows during sleep. The Glymphatic Wash protocol is not an option, it is a biological requirement. Sleep like a professional athlete, providing your brain with the nightly stillness required to perform the chemical restoration we discussed in Volume 7. Fourth, the perpetual student identity. The most dangerous sentence you can say is, "I already know this." The moment you lose your curiosity, your brain begins the process of neural pruning. Adopt the mantra, "This is what a person like me does." We never stop learning. You are not studying for a degree, you are studying for the survival of your neurons. The difference between the person who declines mentally and the person who remains sharp is the system. You now possess the mathematics, the biology, and the biochemistry. A young brain is not a genetic stroke of luck. It is an architectural decision you make every single day. Keep your brain young. Master the machine. Stay sharp.